The day before our wedding, I discovered an Instagram post that shattered everything. My fiancée had shared a picture of her and her first love, lying on a disheveled bed, partially dressed, with clear signs of an intimate encounter scattered across the floor. In that single image, all our plans and promises crumbled into a chaos of betrayal and doubt. I couldn't help but comment, "Great pic. Guess we've got the theme for tomorrow's wedding." I grabbed a suitcase and started stuffing all her stuff inside, as if I were giving it away for free. Sophie had posted that photo on Instagram just a day before our wedding because she was sure my unwavering love meant I'd never cancel, even after seeing her with another man. She believed I'd forgive her instantly because of how deeply I cared, to the point of losing all self-respect. But she'd forgotten the promise she once made. "Kyle, even if you catch me with someone else, it will never be real. My first time will always be yours." Yet in that photo, the signs of what happened between her and Ethan were unmistakable, like she'd long lost count of her first times. Suddenly, it hit me. If she and Ethan were so in love, then why even have this wedding? At 10 o'clock, I switched on my phone, and dozens of missed calls and texts from Sophie flooded in. As soon as my phone booted up, she called. "Kyle, what's going on? It's 10 o'clock and you're still not here for the wedding. Do you know how embarrassing this is for me? You'd better double the gift money. My bridesmaids are livid. Do you even want to marry me anymore?" I put her on speakerphone and replied, "And you owe me an apology first, and then to the bridesmaids." In the past, I might have bowed to her demands, but now I couldn't care less. I sarcastically said, "Sophie, are those marks on your neck going to vanish by today? You spent last night with Ethan. How much concealer will you need?" "Kyle, today's wedding is canceled," she retorted coldly. "Oh, so you saw my Instagram? Is this your way of getting back at me on our wedding day? You've been watching too much TV, Kyle," she snapped. "If my parents weren't forcing me to marry you, do you think I'd do this? The one I love is Ethan. You may have my body, but never my heart. Don't think you can use last night against me. I'm giving you one last chance. Be here by 11, or forget this wedding." With that, she hung up. I could almost hear her fuming with her bridesmaids about how to handle me. When I arrived, my phone buzzed with a new message, a photo of Sophie sleeping in Ethan's arms. Even though she was partly covered by a blanket, the marks on her neck and her peaceful expression said it all. Ethan had texted, "She's marrying you today, but last night was truly her wedding night." I took a screenshot of Sophie's Instagram post and Ethan's photo, and then shared both on my own Instagram with the caption, "Wedding canceled." Clearly, childhood sweethearts are meant for each other. Immediately, my phone exploded with calls from friends and family, wondering what was happening with our wedding scheduled for noon, now half an hour past 10 o'clock. Canceling at this point wasn't a small matter. Sophie's parents called too, anxiously asking, "Kyle, what's going on? Why aren't you here yet? I heard from the bridesmaids that you two had a fight and want to call off the wedding. Marriage is serious. You can't just play around with it like this." I stayed silent. I couldn't bring myself to be rude to my elders. Deep down, though, I no longer wanted to be entangled with Sophie. Once I had faced the truth, I felt numb. I softly replied, "Professor, I'm not throwing a tantrum or fighting. It's just that Sophie has always loved Ethan, not me. Just look at her Instagram." Sophie's father was my university professor, and it was through him that I met Sophie. He had always been kind to me, and one of the reasons I tolerated her so long was because of him. I wondered how the child of such a great teacher could turn out this way. I hoped it was just a momentary lapse of judgment, but I soon realized I was wrong. You can't force someone to love you. The professor and his wife had never liked Ethan back in college. Ethan had done everything to pursue Sophie, showering her with compliments, all to establish himself in the city. He had even stirred up trouble, pitting Sophie against her parents to get a place on campus so he could marry her and take care of her. Ethan's grades were awful, and there was no way he could stay on campus. Meanwhile, I had gone from a master's to a PhD under the professor's guidance, earning national scholarships and publishing countless articles. The school had eventually given me a coveted on-campus spot for years. Ethan and Sophie blamed me, saying I had stolen that spot from him, even though he had only just graduated with a bachelor's degree. Could the school really have let him stay? Yet Sophie believed this nonsense, convinced I had taken Ethan's chance away. At the new house, I finished packing all of Sophie's belongings into several suitcases. Just as I was about to call the moving company, Sophie burst out of the elevator still in her wedding dress. "Are you done with your tantrum? If so, come with me to the hotel. All our guests are waiting." Her anxious face made me smile. "Sophie, last night wasn't your wedding night with Ethan," I said. She froze for a moment, and I sneered. "I've already told everyone the wedding is canceled. I wish you and Ethan a happy life together." "Kyle, have you thought about my parents? They're your professors. Don't you have any conscience? Can't you see how embarrassed they'd be at their age?" she pleaded. I took a deep breath and replied, "Oh, when you were shamelessly doing those things, did you ever worry about embarrassing your parents? You even posted intimate photos with Ethan online. What more is there to be embarrassed about?" She glared at me and gritted her teeth. "Fine, I promise to have less contact with Ethan in the future. Is that good enough for you? Don't be so unreasonable. Who doesn't have exes before getting married?" I was about to say goodbye to my past love, after all, I was supposed to marry you today. You're making a big deal out of nothing, I said, noticing her disdainful look. I deeply regretted the past few years and wondered why I ever fell in love with someone like her. Showing her the photo Ethan had sent, I declared, I'm not so in love with you that I'll let you walk all over me. I'm not marrying you with a smile while you cheat. I packed her things and warned, take them with you, or I'll have the cleaning staff toss them out. With that, I pushed the suitcases aside and slammed the door in her face. Kyle, don't you dare regret this, she shouted from behind the door. I ignored her outburst and closed the bedroom door, finally allowing myself to sleep. The next day, when I turned on my phone, it nearly froze from the flood of messages from worried friends and family. I replied to a few important ones before noticing a message from Sophie's father, my professor, urging me to come over as soon as possible. I couldn't help but think of how kindly he and his wife had treated me over the years. I felt a sudden pang of guilt and decided to visit them immediately. When I arrived, I found Sophie on the couch with a stiff neck and a defiant look. Kyle, didn't you say you weren't getting married? What's the point of convincing my parents to pressure me now? Can't you show some decency? Professor Smith stood up. Enough, Sophie. Is this really how I raised you? I'm incredibly disappointed. Sophie retorted, I'm my own person with my own opinions. I'm not a puppet for you to control. Just because you want me to like someone doesn't mean I will. I've always loved Ethan. She continued. Kyle is the one who doesn't want to marry me, not me calling it off. Why blame me? Isn't Kyle the perfect son-in-law you imagined? Tears filled her mother's eyes as she said, Sophie, look at what you've done. How can you expect Kyle to handle this? How could you, and Ethan, do something like this? Sophie gritted her teeth and glared at me. Even if I agree to marry you, my heart isn't yours. My body and soul have always belonged to Ethan. Feeling hopeless, I stepped between the professor and his wife and looked directly at Sophie. When I pursued you, did I ever force you to do anything against your will? Did I pressure you? Our relationship has always been based on your consent. So why now claim that it's me, or your parents, pressuring you? I thought I was a good boyfriend all these years, but I never expected you'd see things this way. The professor's hands trembled with anger. You keep saying you love Ethan. Do you even know what kind of person he is and what he's done? You're clearly under some sort of spell. Sophie faced her parents defiantly. You did those things to Ethan without him blaming you. You told me not to be mad at you, and now you're criticizing him. You're the ones without a conscience. Her mother slammed her hand on the table. What have we done? Sophie scoffed. Do we really need to go over this? You took Ethan's spot at school and handed it over to Kyle. Kyle snapped. Don't act like everyone doesn't know your spot was earned by flattering my dad. The professor clutched his chest, gasping. What did you just say? I've lived my life with integrity, and now my own daughter accuses me of using underhanded tactics for a student. Sophie dramatically stood and declared, Isn't that true? If I weren't your daughter, and if Ethan hadn't encouraged me, I would have reported you long ago. The professor turned pale and pointed at her. Good. I raised a wonderful daughter. Go ahead and report me now. Get out. Get out. You'll regret this, Sophie shot back as she stormed out. Just watch. I'll make sure Ethan gets what he deserves. With that, she slammed the door. As the echo faded, the professor collapsed. After he fell, chaos erupted. I stood frozen as Sophie's mother rushed to help him, trying to steady his breathing. My anger mixed with guilt, but before I could speak, Sophie turned to me, her face burning with fury. This is your fault, she screamed, pointing at me as if I were the sole cause of everything. I wanted to argue back that she had caused all this by cheating, lying, and manipulating, but I held my tongue. There was nothing more to say at that moment. I left the house, burdened by the weight of my decision. I thought that was the end between Sophie and me. In the following days, I moved into a small apartment. The wedding was officially off, but the drama was far from over. Sophie, clearly furious that I had taken control and exposed her affair, launched a social media campaign to defame me. She constantly posted about how I manipulated her, controlled her, and even stole Ethan's future by taking the campus spot he supposedly deserved. With every post, my anger grew. She twisted the truth so cruelly that, although some friends sent supportive messages, many strangers attacked me, believing her version of events. Sophie wasn't just destroying what we had. She was trying to ruin my reputation, my career, and my name. Worst of all, she used her devastated parents to gain sympathy, claiming I was the reason for her father's health crisis. Without my knowledge, Sophie involved lawyers. I was called into a meeting at work about concerns regarding my personal behavior. It turned out Sophie had sent a letter to the university where I worked and studied, alleging that I plagiarized parts of my academic work and unfairly earned a scholarship through her father's favoritism. The university had to investigate, and I was suspended during the process. Losing my academic position was a crushing blow, but I wasn't about to let Sophie destroy everything I had built. I gathered evidence, emails, papers, and correspondence that proved my academic progress was earned fairly. But the damage was done. The accusations spread, and parts of the academic community began to view me with suspicion as I fought to clear my name. Things only got worse. Not satisfied with defaming me on social media and at work, Sophie began contacting my family. My parents, who had always supported me, started receiving calls and visits from Sophie. With perfect acting, she convinced my mother that I had emotionally traumatized her, claiming I pressured her into marriage by manipulating her through her father. My mother, who always believed in the sanctity of marriage, began to doubt me. Sophie had turned my family against me, and suddenly I was completely alone. Then she struck in the cruelest way possible. One rainy morning, Sophie showed up at my apartment claiming she was pregnant. With a cold smile, she said, "I've thought it over, and despite everything, I'm going to raise this child. Ethan and I have decided, but everyone will know you're the biological father." I was utterly shocked when I found out you were pregnant with my child. We hadn't been together for months after everything had fallen apart, and then the truth hit me. It was just another one of her schemes. She planned to drag me into a legal and financial nightmare, forcing me to pay child support and further wrecking both my personal and professional life. I felt overwhelmed by the pressure, so I decided to consult a lawyer. He was blunt. If she took this to court, I'd have to prove I wasn't the father. It would be her word against mine, and that wouldn't be enough. We'd need a paternity test, but until then, my reputation was on the line. As the drama unfolded, I began digging into Sophie and Ethan's past. I learned that Ethan had been using Sophie all along. He wasn't interested in building a family with her. Instead, he was after her family's money and academic connections. He saw Sophie as nothing more than a tool to use and then discard. Blinded by her obsession, she would do anything for his false love. I decided I wasn't going to let them ruin my life. I filed a defamation lawsuit against Sophie and Ethan, gathering evidence of how they were trying to destroy everything I had worked for. When the paternity test came back, as I already suspected, I wasn't the father. In court, Sophie and Ethan were exposed as the liars and manipulators they were. The judge not only dismissed the paternity claim, but also ordered Sophie to pay damages for the emotional and financial harm she had caused. In the end, Sophie lost everything. Her reputation was in tatters. Her parents sided with me once they learned the truth about her behavior, and Ethan, who had tried to exploit her, vanished when his money ran out. She ended up alone, while I slowly began to rebuild my life, though not without scars. The most infuriating moment came when Sophie, having nothing left, tried to contact me again. "Kyle, I made a mistake. Can we start over? I've always truly loved you. I was just confused." The only response I could give was to shut the door on her with a relieved smile. After the trial exposed all of Sophie and Ethan's lies, and with the court ordering them to pay damages, I started moving on with my life. It was an incredibly tough period, but I decided that I wouldn't let that chapter define me. Sophie had tried to destroy everything I had built, but she failed. I focused on what truly mattered: my career, my personal life, and my future. Returning to work after my suspension was hard, but with the support of my colleagues and the truth finally coming to light, I reclaimed my academic position and slowly rebuilt my reputation at the university. I kept publishing my research, and every success helped me shake off the shadow that Sophie had cast over my life. About 2 years after all that chaos, I met Camila. She was unlike anyone I'd ever known: smart, kind, and, most importantly, respectful. From the very start, she treated me with an honesty I hadn't even realized I needed. Our time together taught me what a healthy relationship really could be. Camila always supported my career and professional projects, but she also reminded me to balance work with relaxation, something I had neglected for years. Together, we grew both personally and professionally. With her by my side, I not only improved at work, but also began to embrace new opportunities. We even bought a house together and eventually got married. Our relationship was built on mutual respect, trust, and true partnership, something Sophie and I never had. I thought the saga with Sophie was over, but about 4 years after our breakup, I was hit with another legal notice. Sophie was trying to sue me for emotional damages, claiming that the time we spent together and an alleged promise of a future justified her receiving financial support, even though we had no children or legal ties. It was absurd, but knowing Sophie, I wasn't entirely surprised. This time, I was prepared. My lawyer laughed when she saw the notice, and we quickly put together our defense. In court, it became clear to everyone that Sophie was desperate. She no longer had her family's support. They had cut ties after learning the full truth about her manipulations. Ethan abandoned her as soon as it was obvious she no longer had access to her family's money. Now unemployed and with no allies, Sophie was doing everything she could to drag me down again. The judge didn't take her claims seriously, and with all the evidence and documentation I had, the case was dismissed swiftly. Sophie didn't get a single penny. That was the last I heard from her. Later, I learned from mutual acquaintances that Sophie was living a completely different life from the one she had once dreamed of. With no support from her parents, she was stuck in a friend's apartment, barely scraping by with odd jobs. Her once influential family had distanced themselves completely after the shame she brought upon them. It was sad in a way, but I knew these were the natural consequences of her own actions. Life had finally caught up with her. Meanwhile, my life was taking a turn for the better. With Camila by my side, my career flourished even more. I became a respected name in my academic field, and my research papers gained international recognition. My work opened doors to consulting and speaking engagements around the world. Having a partner who respected me, believed in my worth, and helped me grow made all the difference. With Camila, I learned that a healthy relationship is about so much more than romance. It's about respect, mutual support, and continual growth. One evening, while we were having dinner, Camila looked into my eyes and said, "I'm so proud of the man you are and everything we've built together. I'm sure the best is yet to come." Her words touched me deeply because they summed up exactly how I felt. We had come so far together, and with her, the sky was the limit. Looking back now, I realized that every painful moment led me to where I am today. Sophie was a dark chapter in my life, but finding someone like Camila showed me that being with a person who truly respects you can change everything. Today, I live the life I always dreamed of, free from the ghosts of the past, and surrounded by love and prosperity that I spent many sleepless nights reflecting on the winding path that had led me to this moment. A time when the scars of betrayal and manipulation were slowly fading into the background, replaced by a cautious optimism and renewed purpose. With Camila by my side, I learned that every trial, every setback, was an opportunity to rebuild a stronger version of myself. Our days were filled with small victories, a paper published, a project approved, a moment of laughter shared over coffee. Each of these milestones, however modest, became a stepping stone out of the shadows of my past. I began to see that the pain I had endured was not a chain to hold me back, but a crucible in which my resilience was forged. At the university, I found solace in my work. My research, once clouded by personal turmoil, became a beacon of hope for others facing similar struggles. I mentored students who reminded me of my younger self, full of potential yet uncertain about the future. Their enthusiasm rekindled a passion for discovery and innovation that had long been dormant. Lectures transformed into lively discussions, and academic conferences became stages on which I shared not just data and theories, but the hard-won wisdom of living through adversity. With each accolade, my confidence grew, and the lingering whispers of my past receded further into memory. Outside the lecture halls and research labs, Camila and I built a life defined by shared dreams and mutual respect. Our home, a modest yet inviting space, became a sanctuary where laughter mingled with the aroma of home-cooked meals and the quiet hum of contentment. We spent weekends exploring nature, finding in its vastness a mirror for our own journey, a reminder that growth often comes after enduring harsh seasons. Evenings were reserved for heartfelt conversations, where we discussed our fears, our aspirations, and the simple pleasures that made life worth living. It was in these moments of vulnerability that I truly understood the meaning of partnership and how the strength of one heart can elevate another. Yet, life is rarely a straight path. As I delved deeper into my career, new challenges emerged. A particularly demanding research project tested not only my academic prowess, but also my ability to balance work and personal life. There were days when the weight of expectations threatened to overwhelm me, when I questioned whether the sacrifices were worth the rewards. Camila's unwavering support became my anchor during these turbulent times. She reminded me that setbacks were not failures, but lessons waiting to be learned. Together, we navigated the storm, celebrating each small breakthrough and learning to cherish progress over perfection. As the years passed, my reputation in the academic world blossomed. Invitations to international conferences, collaborative projects with renowned scholars, and opportunities to consult for leading institutions became part of my new reality. Despite the accolades, I never forgot the painful lessons of my past. They served as a constant reminder that integrity, perseverance, and the courage to stand alone when necessary were the true measures of success. I often thought of Sophie and Ethan, whose desperate maneuvers had once threatened to derail my life. Their downfall was not merely a matter of legal victory, but a testament to the idea that deceit and manipulation ultimately lead to ruin. In contrast, the honest, steady progress I had achieved was a reward far greater than any court ruling could offer. In quiet moments of introspection, I would revisit the chapters of my life that were marked by heartbreak and betrayal. I acknowledged the pain, the anger, and the deep sense of loss that had once consumed me. But I also recognized that these experiences had taught me invaluable lessons about trust, resilience, and the importance of surrounding oneself with genuine love. Camila's presence was a constant reminder that redemption was possible, that the future could be brighter than the darkest days of the past. With her, I learned to forgive, not just those who had wronged me, but also myself for the mistakes I had made along the way. Our journey together was punctuated by moments of profound clarity. One autumn evening, as we walked hand in hand through a park painted with the vibrant hues of falling leaves, Camila spoke softly about our shared future. "Every step we take, every challenge we overcome, is a part of our story," she said, her eyes reflecting both determination and tenderness. "I believe that our best days are still ahead of us, and that our love is the foundation on which we can build anything." Her words resonated deeply with me, reaffirming that the trials of the past had not defined me, they had refined me. There were times when I wondered if life would ever offer a moment of complete peace, a time when the echoes of old wounds would be replaced entirely by the symphony of a hopeful future. Slowly, I began to realize that perfection was not the goal. Rather, it was the continuous journey of healing, growth, and rediscovery that mattered most. The laughter of friends, the quiet pride of achieving a long-sought goal, and the simple joy of sharing a meal with someone who understood the value of trust became the threads that wove together the fabric of my new life. As I look back on the tumultuous chapters that once threatened to shatter everything I had built, I see them now as a distant storm, intense and all-consuming at the time, yet ultimately transient. They gave way to clearer skies and a horizon filled with promise. The transformation was not instantaneous, but gradual and persistent, much like the steady unfolding of a well-tended garden. Every scar, every setback, was a reminder of my capacity to endure and overcome. And in that process, I discovered a strength that was uniquely my own. Today, as I stand at the crossroads of memory and possibility, I am filled with gratitude for the journey that has shaped me. The dark days, the bitter battles, and the painful betrayals have all led to a life imbued with authenticity and hope. With Camila's hand firmly in mine, I step forward into a future where the lessons of the past serve as guiding stars rather than chains. In the glow of a new dawn, I embrace the promise of tomorrow, one filled with love, growth, and the unyielding belief that the best is yet to come.